Hello, my name is Trevor, and in this video, I'm going to tell you why I invested $60,000 in myself to hire one of the best life coaches on the planet, and then why I fired him months later. I'm also going to tell you what I got out of the coaching. Was it worth it? Would I do it again? Let's see. Before I begin, I want to be really clear about a couple things. The first is that the power in this video lies completely with you, the listener. The power is in the listener. I invite you to watch this and listen to this about you, not about me. That was one of the biggest shifts that changed everything for me in my personal and spiritual development journey, when I realized that the more I watched, read, and listened to things just about me, not thinking about it was about the person who was doing the talking or doing the sharing, the more I was able to grow and shift and transform in myself. So I invite you, if you're going to take the time to watch this video, please watch and listen about you. Your listening is everything here. I can do nothing to give you anything, communicate anything to you, be of value or of service to you without your listening. It's not what we see and what we hear that matters. It's how we're looking and how we're listening. So listen from that place. Listen from a place of possibility. Don't worry so much about wondering whether you need to agree with everything I say. I'm not saying everything I say is the truth and it's true for everybody. But what I'm going to talk about are these ideas of what's possible for what I found in my life over the past year is so many areas where I essentially had blind spots. I mean, if I could boil the coaching down to one thing, it's all about bringing more awareness to your blind spots, and at the same time, not just bringing awareness to them, but having the tools to do something about them, to change them, to change your entire life trajectory, to change the way you view your past, to change the way you view every relationship in your life. And the reason that I got into coaching in the first place was really born out of this idea that I got from meditation. Your mind is all you have. Your mind is all you have. It's all you've ever had. It's all you have to offer other people. It's the only thing that makes your life what it is the mind, is you that shows up in the world. So it makes sense to train it. And I did train my mind for many years through a variety of different means. I was really into reading personal development books, and I've been on this personal spiritual development journey. I would really say it started distinctly on my 27th birthday. I just kind of had this sort of what I used to call a quarter life crisis that I now call an awakening. And from there, I got into reading books like The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. That was an early book that was really influential in me. And I just had this feeling that like my life could be so much better even than it was. And things were great. I've always been happy. I've always been successful, all these kinds of things. But I always just knew that there was so much more that I could be. I had this feeling. So if you're watching, listening to this, and you're someone who's maybe already successful, you look like you have a lot going on. No, I did too. And I knew that there was so much more. I had so much more potential, and I knew that having a coach was the way to help unlock that. So I wanted to have a coach. I actually tried to hire a coach 5 years ago. And at that time, the guy I talked to was pretty much like, I don't really think that one-on-one coaching is right for you right now. I'm not sure that you're in a place to get so much value out of it, and he recommended some app to me that was really helpful, and I kind of went on about my journey from there. And then I met this guy Townsend through my prior job. He was like a consultant for one of the clients that I worked with, and I was at a point where I used to really struggle in my personal and spiritual development journey with the spiritual aspect and the material aspect. I had gotten really into meditation. I'd done a 10-day silent meditation retreat and had some profound, crazy experiences that were amazing and beautiful. I found this peace and freedom and love and connection with and in myself and with other people that completely blew my mind. And it was great. And then I went back to my life in Manhattan, working in tech sales and doing everything else around here. And that afterglow started to wear off. And I really felt this conflict building between like being spiritual, feeling like I could be happy just being a monk meditating in a cave, kind of like Michael Singer talks about in the Surrender Experiment, that point in his life where he just wanted to build a cabin in the woods and meditate and do yoga all day. I was really stuck kind of between that but I do also, I love living in New York. I love my life here. I want to be a multimillionaire and all this stuff, but I feel so conflicted and like I got to choose, like how can I be spiritual and have this other aspect where I'm doing all these things in the pursuit of money as well. I couldn't really get those two straight in my head. And that's one thing that the year of coaching, I would say, is completely shifted for me, is finding and looking for all these ways in which our life can be an example of yes and. That it's not either or. We don't have to choose between being deeply spiritual and being a multimillionaire. I am a deeply spiritual multimillionaire. I'm claiming that. And there are some other shining examples of people like this that we can see. I would say my coach's coach is probably one of the greatest examples of it. He's a guy named Steve Hardison. And so Townsend, my coach, has been being coached by Steve the whole time that we were working together, which was really, really incredible. I mean, that would be like you're taking golf lessons and your golf coach is being coached by Hank Haney every single week. You know, right before you go in for your lesson, your coach is getting a lesson from Hank Haney or whatever. Let's say you're learning the cello and Yo-Yo Ma is teaching your teacher. So it was this amazing experience that I had working with Townsend where I also felt like I was being coached by Steve through Townsend. And Steve is someone who commands a fee of $200,000 a year, which might sound kind of crazy on the surface, but when you get into the value, the time you get out of it, the commitment, the level of commitment that's there. And that's what the money is really all about when it comes to this. You know, I invested $60,000 in myself to work with Townsend. And at first that can sound like, oh my, that's crazy and what? But you think about all the commitment and the focus and time and energy that you're getting from that you're bringing to the table, right? Because I mean, that's a big commitment. And we all know, I mean, if something's free, how do you value it? How do you treat it? Well, you treat it like it's free. Or if it's $5, you treat it like it's $5. So just the very act of making this monetary commitment, and look, I had to overcome a lot of limiting beliefs and doubt and insecurity and fear and all this stuff. I mean, that I don't want to make it sound like that was some easy decision for me, but ultimately I made the decision because I felt like I was worth it. I felt like I deserved it. And people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on their education, and for what? You know, to get a degree so they can get a job? Well, here I am spending this money to invest purely in myself. It's the most pure investment in yourself and a way to up-level the way that you are in the world, unlike anything else. I mean, other analogies I like to use to try to take it out of the coaching thing and just think about any skill, anything that you would want to develop or improve in your life. Let's say you want to learn a new language. Well, hiring the best French teacher in the world to work with you intensely, you know, every week, every other week, that's going to be a great way for you to develop more quickly than just using the Duolingo app or something like that, or just trying to make friends with people and say, hey, can we just go like practice, you know, French together and it's free, whatever. You get the idea. There's nothing like that level of commitment that the coach is going to bring to the table. They take that very, very seriously, and then the level of commitment that I'm showing up with, and the money's really just a function of that. But if you also want to think about, I mean, imagine I said that I I bought a $60,000 car. Everyone would be celebrating. Oh, great, awesome, Trevor, look at you. You got that cool new car. That's so cool, man. I'm like, yeah, I got this car. It makes me feel good. I'm driving it. That's normal. You tell people you invested $60,000 in yourself to improve everything about your life and improve your ability to create in the world. That's the huge thing you get from coaching is this analogy of like the ability for you to create in the world. Or let's think about a wizard and his wand. I'll make a couple Harry Potter references here. Love those books. And what we learned in that last book, right, is that it wasn't about the wand. It's all about the power of the wizard. Imagine going to a genie and having some wishes granted, and the ability for those wishes to be granted depends entirely on the power of the genie. So something like coaching is what makes you a more powerful creator. I mean, the more powerful the creator, the more powerful the creation. And how does the creator become more powerful? Well, by creating himself or herself more powerfully, and in a big way, investing and committing to himself or herself to become a more powerful creator. So it's like learning, it's kind of like developing the skill of super learning and then going out and learning things. You're developing the skill of your ability to create your life exactly the way you want it, and then you can go apply that everywhere. I mean, my coach's tagline on LinkedIn right now, I think, is something along the lines of, I am relentless and uncompromising in the pursuit of extraordinary everywhere in your life. And after having worked with him for a year, that is accurate. I mean, there is not to give you an idea of like what this experience was like. I mean, we're working intensely for 2 hours at a time every other week. And in every one of those sessions, it was just not a single session where I didn't have a massive insight about a massive blind spot that I had. Or I would bring a problem and Townsend would help me see that there was some way where I was creating that problem, where I could look at it a different way, or the problem didn't really exist, or I would get at this idea of who would I need to be to solve this problem, or who would I need to be that this problem wasn't a problem. And it was just one thing after another of like blind spot, blind spot, blind spot, bringing awareness to it and having the tools, having the technology to do something about that. I think about it also like, I imagine I'm like a character in the video game of my life. And what I got from the coaching was all of my attributes, all of my positive attributes were turned up. Attributes like self-love and patience and gratitude and confidence, and every positive emotion, every positive aspect of your life that you could imagine having is amplified and turned up dramatically. And at the same time, all of the negative things, all the unuseful things in our lives, the judgment, the fear, doubt, insecurity, impatience, comparing yourself to others, thinking that you're not as far along as you should be, worrying about everything. All that stuff has been turned way, way down. And I've come away with this peace and knowing that I'll never be done. I mean, one of the ways that I create myself, and a big aspect that comes out of this coaching, is developing this personal declaration that you have for yourself. So this is something that people who, you work with someone like Townsend or Steve Hardison, his coach, will help you develop this document, this personal declaration of who you are. I'll just share mine here for you, and know that this is something that took me months to get it anywhere close to where it is now, and it's something that I work on still all the time. It's a living document. I'm always adding things to it, changing things about it, depending on where I am in my life right now, because we're always changing, right? I mean, you're not the same person you were when you started watching this video. You've already, if you're listening the right way and you're listening to this about you, you have already had some type of insight. You're already not the same person you were when you started this video, and neither am I from getting to share this. The transformation occurs in the sharing of the transformation. That's a big reason I'm here to do this. The place that I'm coming from is I want to help create more people who create the charity waters of the world. So for those of you who don't know the story of Charity Water, it's this amazing nonprofit that's focused on getting clean water to the places that don't have easy access to clean drinking water. And the guy who started it was a nightclub promoter in New York, in Manhattan, and he'd gotten to the point where he's in his maybe mid-30s, and he's a multi-millionaire, and he's got all the parties and all the girls and all the drugs and everything he ever thought he wanted, and he is miserable and empty inside. It looks like he's got this great life, right? But we all know that doesn't really fill you up the way that people act as if it might. Thankfully for him and for the world, what was born out of that was he shifted his focus to how could he serve the world, and he landed on the idea of Charity Water, and it's a beautiful story, and he's helping millions and millions of people and making a hugely positive impact on the world. So what I'm going to do in my life is help create more people like that. And my idea is also to get those people before they're too far down this road of realizing that all the things they think that they wanted, that they were going after, are not the answer. There's that beautiful quote from Jim Carrey where he says, I wish everyone could get everything that they think that they want. The money, the fame, the power, the relationship, whatever it is, all these things that you think you want that are going to complete you, that are going to make you happy, they're going to make you whole. I wish everyone could get them so that they could see that's not really what they want. I mean, what do we want? We say, if you got a genie in front of you, ready to grant you 3 wishes, what's everyone going to wish for? Money, some type of relationship, and maybe some type of power or skill. Maybe you want to look differently. Those probably the top 3. You probably want to change something about your face and your body. You want more money. Maybe you want a relationship. But why do you want those things? What's behind that? Why do you want more money? Well, if I had money, if I had all the money in the world, then I'd be free. So what you really want is freedom. And if I looked different or I looked a certain way, well, then I'd be able to feel good about myself and accept myself and love myself. Okay, so what you really want is to accept yourself and love yourself. So we've gone from money and looks and a relationship so I can feel validated, so I can feel loved and be loved and know that I'm worthy, know that I'm complete. All right, so now we've gone from these wishes being about money and a relationship and different face or body, but what's really underlying them are we all really just want freedom and love and peace and validation and to know that we are enough. Well, what if you could pursue those things directly? What if those things are not a byproduct of money and being able to travel and having as many relationships as you want or looking a certain way? What if you can pursue those things directly, the things that are underlying what you say you want there? That has been the power of the coaching that I've gotten over the past year. The amount of love and peace and freedom that I have in my life and for the world has increased exponentially. The way I view my future now, with nothing but excitement and gratitude for how incredible it's going to be, that is a major shift for me. I spent the first 8 years of my working life after college basically having this apprehension about the future and is it all going to work out? Am I ever going to make enough money to retire? Am I doing the right thing? Is there another career I could have that I would enjoy more and be better at? Am I getting it right? Am I enough? Am I doing enough? Am I far along enough on my journey, where I'm supposed to be? I'm comparing myself to other people, and that was a tough one for me living in Manhattan, and especially having, through my older sister, I had a lot of older rich friends. So I had a real view into that world of all these people that had so much money, and I was so jealous of them. And I thought, if and when I can ever get there, if I'm even worthy and capable of getting to that level of monetary success, but if I do, then that's what will really make me happy. But what I started to notice in their life, they didn't necessarily have any of the other things that I assumed they did. I thought everything about their life was perfect because they had all this money. And I thought, if I just have a different pair of Ferragamos for every day of the week, and I have a shirt guy like my friend Jason, then I'll be happy, then I'll be complete. And I'm so grateful and lucky that I got to get that glimpse early on, to where I kind of knew that it's not just about that. It's not just about the material success. But as I say, I got to this place through my coaching of yes and of like it's both. I don't have to choose between being happy and fulfilled and peaceful and being spiritual and having and making a lot of money. I mean, again, I'm claiming that I'm a deeply spiritual multimillionaire, and I want to help create more people like that as well, and more people who want to come from a place of service. So the types of people that are going to create the charity waters of the world. So that's what I feel like I'm uniquely positioned to do, and why I'm on this planet, really, is I can relate to all those people because I know them. I run in the same circles, whatever, all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, I see you, I know you. And there's a lot more to life than stacking up money and, flashing your wealth and things like that, and thinking that you're better than everybody. I used to do, struggle with that a lot. And even, so this was a huge takeaway to get into some of the aspects of the coaching that made like huge shifts in my life. I mean, one area I would say is this whole idea of conflict. I used to avoid conflict like the plague. Like, I was kind of a people pleaser. I just wanted to be nice. I wanted everyone to get along. If two people were ever having a disagreement, like in my presence, it made me so uncomfortable. And if I ever was in a position where I felt like I kind of wanted to speak up about something, but I was worried about how the other person would receive it, I wouldn't say anything, and I would suppress it. I was very much avoidant of conflict. And I'd been that way like my entire life. And as a result of coaching over the past year, I now view conflict in this entirely new light. I see it as the foundation of growth and improving yourself and the relationships in your life. That conflict is such a necessary ingredient to you getting to where you want to be, you being in a more loving relationship. And it's all about how you treat the conflict once it comes up. So obviously, if you've encountered the conflict and who you're being in that moment. So when I talk about this whole idea of being, you can think of it as kind of like your beliefs and identity. It's like, who are you? Who are you being that those are the words that you're using? Those are the actions that you're taking. Who are you being? What kind of person are you being that's how you're showing up in the world? So if conflict comes up and the person you're being is you're trying to be right, you want to dig in your heels, you want to stick it to the other person, you want to punish them, well, that's not going to lead to growth. That's going to lead to misery, really, and worsened relationships and a worsened view of yourself. But conflict can be the most beautiful and empowering thing when you see it the right way. And that was a huge shift that happened with me and in me as a result of the coaching with Townsend. I see everything about the world differently because I'm different. We all know this idea, like we could mark it on the multiple choice test, that we essentially create our reality. And to illustrate this, or give you an example, imagine that this video is going to be watched by everyone on the planet. It's going to get 8 billion views on YouTube, right? Every single person who watches this video is going to have their own take on it. They're all going to see me differently. If all 8 billion people watch this video and you ask them to say, what do you think of Trevor? What do you think of the message? What came up for you? You're going to get 8 billion different answers. So what does that tell you? That tells you that everyone is creating, is hearing, is seeing me differently. And that is everywhere. That is your life. every day you go out into the world, you are putting your listening and your seeing and you're putting your inner world on the outer world. Seeing the truth of that, and there's always more of that to see. And as I talk about this stuff, I also don't want to give you any impression that I'm like on some mountain and I've mastered this. But what I have mastered is the idea that I'm always going to be a student. I used to think there was some place to get to, or that I had to have it all figured out, that I had to get it right. And now I know, and part of the way that I create myself, and coming back to this document, is that I am my own master, which means I know I am never done being a student. There is no done. There is no getting it. There is no getting there. There is always more to see. And I'm always looking, joyfully. And that's the big key as well, is that we have to look joyfully for these things. And so again, for my own life, prior to my coaching with Townsend, whenever I would find something inauthentic about myself, or I'm out of integrity, or I'm inconsistent, or I'm not doing what I said I was going to do, or I'm not being the person I want to be, I would feel ashamed of it. I would be embarrassed. I would feel guilty. I'd want to hide it. I'd want to suppress it. That's not very helpful. And that's what so many of us do. So many of us live our lives, and I certainly used to live my life from this point of view of, let me look for all the ways where I can confirm that I'm authentic. We all want to be authentic, right? That's like the biggest thing for all of us. No one wants to be a hypocrite. No one wants to look like they're inauthentic or that they don't have it figured out. So we look for ways where I can prove and confirm my authenticity. I can prove and confirm where I'm living in integrity, where I'm being the person that I say I want to be. And then that makes me feel good. And then what I don't do, what people tend not to do, is look for all the ways that you're not. And the reason they don't do that is because whenever those things come up, whether it's another person telling us something, that sometimes people tell us things and people like to say the truth hurts, right? That's this great colloquialism that we all kind of accept and take, oh yeah, the truth hurts. You know, someone sticks you with the truth and it hurts. Well, it doesn't hurt me anymore. It certainly used to, but if someone can show me something, tell me something that I'm not seeing, beautiful. Thank you. That's amazing. Look at this opportunity for me to up-level and expand my being. And I want to be so clear that the way that I am talking right now, the fact that I am making this video at all, I could not have come close to imagining myself doing this at, certainly a year or more ago, but even just a few months ago. I had talked about starting this YouTube channel for the better part of the entire year that I was working with Townsend. I can recall in my mind so many sessions where I'm like, where he's asking me, what are you committed to? What are you creating the work? This is not accountability coaching. This is not, let's come up with a 5-10 step plan and let me call you every day and check in on this. It's all work on just who you are, on your being, on the way you see yourself, the way you're creating yourself, and then seeing what you want to get committed to. But there's no hand holding here. This is not accountability coaching or anything like that. So that stuff would come up, and then the weeks would go by, the month would go by, and it was still, I just haven't gotten around to it yet or whatever. And what was really happening was just, I was afraid. I was so scared to start this channel, to share things like this with the world, because I was scared of two things. One, I was scared of looking cool enough. Like, am I saying things that are resonating with people? Are people going to like this? Are people going to like me? And then on the other hand, I was also worried about looking like a show-off. Like, who do I think I am? Who am I to make this video? Who am I to share this stuff? No one wants to hear what I have to say. I don't really have anything valuable to say, do I? It took a lot for me to get over that. And now that I have, I found, there is so much freedom in this. I think our personal and spiritual development journeys are so much about finding out who you are, like really getting clear on who you are, not who you think you're supposed to be, not who who your parents want you to be, not who your partner or your spouse wants you to be, not who your friends expect you to be, not who your coworkers want you to be or expect you to be. Who are you really? And it's tough to get at that answer if you're not creating that focus and time and energy for yourself. So that's what this investment in coaching for me was so much about, figuring out, well, who am I really? And then the next fun game to play is, well, how can I be that person? How can I unapologetically be myself? And that, for me, was much more difficult than it may just sound. I mean, there's finding out who I am. I spent the better part of my year working with Townsend figuring that out. And mind you, I've been working on this for 6-7 years before that. I've been really into the personal and spiritual development, and nothing that I did before was anywhere close to the level of transformation that you get when you're committed and you're working intensely with someone one-on-one for 2 hours at a time every other week. Someone who's going to tell you when you're full of shit. Someone who's going to help you see the things that you can't see. Not someone who's going to give you answers and give you prescriptions. There's absolutely none of that. There is no agenda. There is no roadmap for the coaching. The coaching is all about me. It's all about you. It's all about the individual showing up the way you show up on that day. There's never a plan. There's never an agenda. We are building the road as we go along, and it's all based entirely on you, on the person showing up committed to getting authentic about their inauthenticity, to looking for all the areas in their life where they're not being the person that they know they want to be, but being able to look at that with self-forgiveness. So to boil down a couple of the huge themes and concepts that I got from the coaching that I can apply and have been applying in my life now and that I know I'll be able to forever, one of them is this whole idea of self-forgiveness. And that is so essential. It's also something that Steve Hardison talks about in his book, which, sorry, I'm going to get it real quick. So this book is really the best way that I would say, if you're curious about the kind of coaching that I experienced and what I got out of it, and you want to explore more of this stuff for yourself beyond just watching this one video, like this would be the book to do it. This is the only book that gets at this whole idea of being. The book, it's called The Ultimate Coach. It's not a book about coaching. It's not a book about the guy, Steve. It's a book about you. And one of the things, the huge concept they talk about in that book is this idea of self-forgiveness, how necessary that is for growth and transformation. Because what we talked about before, if you find the places where you're inauthentic, then, and you punish yourself, you feel guilty about it, then you're just going to suppress things. It's going to hinder your progress. When you look and you find that stuff and you use this magical tool, technology of self-forgiveness, that allows you to plant a new flower in its place. And I love this garden analogy for the personal, spiritual development, the transformation. The garden analogy is so rich and beautiful and perfect to where what you do through this coaching, it's a combination of getting rid of your limiting beliefs, your fears, your insecurities, the judgments that you have of yourself and of other people, the way you judge other people, the way you judge yourself, all this negativity, all these unhelpful things. It's a means of clearing all that out to make space for then planting a beautiful new garden. And planting the beautiful new garden is, okay, who are you? Who do you want to be? What do you want to create in the world? How do you want to show up and serve and love other people? What kind of relationships do you want to create in your life? How's your relationship with your parents? Is it a 10 out of 10? Could it be? As a possibility? How's your relationship with your friends, your siblings, your partner, your spouse? Are they all a 10 out of 10? Could they be? As a possibility? And when you clear all these judgments and all these things away, you make space to be able to create those beautiful, positive things in your life. And self-forgiveness is the key. You have to look for those judgments and look for those things with a magnifying glass of love and forgiveness for yourself. And then you create consciously and powerfully on top of that in its place. So finding these judgments, I think of it as like there's a weed that's sprouted up in your garden and you can see the top of it. That's like the thought, the thought like this person's an idiot, or I'm not good at this, or I'm stressed about work, or I'm worried about my future. Those thoughts that show up, those are kind of like the top of the weed. And then what you look to do from there is identify like, what is that underlying judgment? Like what's really going on there? You know how earlier we talked about the genie and said people say they want money and a relationship and to look different, but what they really want is peace and freedom and happiness. And on the flip side of that, people say you're an idiot or they're judging themselves for something else. And what's underneath that, it's never just the words or the thought or the interaction. There's something beneath that that is the root of the weed. And it's always going to be some type of judgment about essentially thinking that you're not good enough, or that you don't deserve to have a beautiful life, or you're creating things as difficult because, well, that's just the way it is. It has to be that way. Well, what if it didn't? I can tell you it was just time after time, thing after thing in working with Townsend where I thought there was no way around something, or that this person was this way, or this thing was a problem, or I'm just this way, or these are my beliefs about money, and it's because of this, it's because of that. Let me tell you about my childhood. Let me tell you all these stories. Let me fight for my limiting beliefs. Let me tell you why I can't. Let me tell you why they're wrong. Let me tell you why this is impossible. And every single time I showed up with that stuff, by the end of our session, I had seen it in a completely different light. And now I've built this muscle, this skill for me to be able to do this myself. So I'm probably going to have a coach again at some point. I wanted to take some time after having worked so intensely on this for 15 months to also let a lot of things settle and continue to work on myself, because again, we're never done. We're never done tending to the garden. You're never done working out. I mean, just in the way that your physical and mental health are things that require daily practices, really. Like get good sleep to the extent that you can every single night. Exercise, walk every day. You eat healthy every day. You don't say, I had a salad last week, so I should be good, right? I lifted weights, 2 weeks ago. I'm done, right? Of course not. No one would think that for a second. And the same is true for all these other things in your life, like the way you see yourself, the way you love yourself, the way that you love other people. These are constant and daily practices. And it's not hard work unless you create it that way. This stuff is fun and easy and effortless when you create it that way. When you look for these things with a magnifying glass of forgiveness and love for yourself, well, then it's fun and easy. You're not scared to go. It's like you're in this house, and previously you would go around opening doors and checking out different rooms, and sometimes you'd look in a room and you didn't want to go in there. You didn't want to see what there was to see in there because you're scared. You're scared it means something like irreparable about you, or something you can't overcome. But when you start to see that all of these things in your life, you can create consciously and powerfully whatever you want. You can create new relationships with the same people. I mean, my relationship with my parents, with my siblings, with my friends, with my coworkers, so far beyond where they were a year ago. The types of conversations, the honest conversations, the love that is being expressed and shared between me and my mom, my brother, everybody in my life is completely transformed. So when we get back to the money, I mean, how much is it worth to you to have a 10 out of 10 relationship with your children, with your friends, with your parents, with your spouse? What's that worth? How much money to have infinite love for yourself and the people in your life. There's two sides to this coin. And I used to think that personal development was all about like tacking on new skills. Like I gotta get stronger and better and faster. It was always about being competitive, and it was about trying to make more money. Because remember, I used to think that was what was gonna really change everything for me. And what I found over the past year is how much of this personal and spiritual development is about letting go of the stuff that doesn't serve you, is letting go of the judgments, of the stories, of the limiting beliefs that you have for yourself. I want to now take some time to share some of the major transformations that occurred in my life. Because there was one in particular that's coming to mind now that I want to share about this whole idea of perfectionism. That was something that I really struggled with my entire life, and I think that's something common to people who are like high achievers. You know, like I look like I have everything going on. People think it's easy for me or whatever. What they didn't see was how much of my success and even my like outward appearing happiness was based on thinking that I had to be and needed to be perfect. You know, I was succeeding and doing so well in my career from a place of being scared of failing. And that's fuel. That works, right? I mean, the analogy that we talk about in the coaching is imagine that you go see someone who is the fastest framer in the world. They're putting up houses. They're building houses like the speed of light, and everyone like comes around to see this person and see like, wow, look at how quickly and beautifully they put up these houses. This is amazing. They're putting the framing in, and then you go look and see that this person is using a screwdriver to nail in all the nails. So you point out to them and just say, hey, you're doing a great job. Like I'm not telling you that you're not successful. I'm not telling you that you don't have it figured out. I'm not telling you you're not doing a great job. But are you making it more difficult on yourself than you need to? And that was a huge shift for me in the coaching and in my life, was to see I was having all this success, but I was being driven by fear or competitiveness or insecurity or thinking I needed to look a certain way to be liked by people. So that would have me looking and acting a certain way, when you can create those same results and more results from a place of love for yourself and patience and gratitude for everything in your life, rather than worrying about if you're going to mess it up, if you have enough, if people are going to like you. Those same things, those things can drive you to appear quote unquote successful, and then people get in this really precarious position where they've achieved some level of success on paper. So now everyone's looking at them like, oh, you've got it all figured out, you're so successful, you're so great, you must be so happy. And no one's going to want to hear you complain. No one's going to want to hear that, well, actually you're kind of insecure, and actually you're so worried about your future. That's why you're working so hard, is because you're just scared of what would happen if you didn't. And you don't think there's any other way. I mean, I work in sales, and I remember talking with a coworker once about like, is it possible to hit your quota in sales if you're not driven by fear of not hitting your quota? It's like, well, I got to hit it so I don't get fired. That's what so many of us in sales come from, and that can lead to success, right? You can sell a whole lot. You could double your quota from a place of, oh my God, I better not mess this up. I better not get fired. So the fuel that people are using to have success in their lives can be very, very different. And what I found over the year of working with Townsend was that I could be fueled by love and self-forgiveness and gratitude for the life that I have, and wanting to serve other people, wanting to create more and more abundance and prosperity so that I can share it with other people. Coming back to the charity water example, I mean, that guy, he can't start charity water if he doesn't have the money and the connections. You need all of that, and it's yes and. I mean, have the abundance, have the money, have all the things. Yes, I love all that stuff. and I'm going to create a lot more of it in my life. And I'm going to do it from a place of just loving myself, being grateful for the opportunity that I have to be alive, knowing that I have the power to go out and create anything I want, and that I deserve to. Instead of a lot of us also who are quote unquote successful can also have this idea of feeling kind of guilty. This was something else that came up. I posted something on LinkedIn a while ago about how peace and freedom and love and connection are already included in your life. You don't need to go get external things to then feel that internal validation. I said too many people are living their life backwards, living their life like they're pursuing all these material things, thinking consciously or unconsciously that they're going to get this spiritual payoff of sorts. And someone commented and said that this is coming from a privileged point of view, and this isn't true for everybody, especially minorities, and it was all this stuff. And I totally understand where she's coming from, because I used to come from that same place. I used to feel guilty about everything I had. Like, who am I to have the life that I do? I don't deserve this. I should just shrink. I should just shy away. I feel guilty. I don't deserve this. This isn't fair. Some people don't have it as good as me. But what does that do? Does that help anybody? Am I helping anyone by feeling guilty, by trying not to shine brightly? Well, what if on the flip side it was, yes, I won the life lottery. And so many of us have won the life lottery. I mean, so many people that I know are in that same or similar position. And you can accept that with grace and gratitude and love and appreciation for yourself and the life that you have. And you can then know, look, if you're lucky enough to be in that position, then absolutely, let's create more charity waters in the world and try to, when the tide rises, all the boats in the harbor rise. Like, let's play that game. Let's not play a game of this isn't fair and those people have it worse. And I used to operate from that place. And now I'm much more operating from a place of my life is beautiful and incredible and abundant, and I'm so lucky and grateful to have that and get to experience this. And now I want to go out and share it and create more with other people. But I can't do that from a place of shame or guilt or whatever. So those are some of the other things that have really shifted from my experience working one-on-one with Townsend. And some of the other major concepts are just that one I want to share that was a huge revelation for me, that again, I go from the first time I hear this, I'm like, what? Nah, that's not it. That can't be true. To now just seeing how true it is in my own life. And this is something, again, that you can test out in the laboratory of your own life and your own mind. But this idea that there is no judgment of others, there is only judgment of self. When you think you're judging other people, what you're really doing is judging something consciously or unconsciously. And again, this is deeply an unconscious thing. There's something that you don't like about yourself, so you project that on other people. You tell other people that they're bad, or they should be doing something differently, or they shouldn't have done that, or they're wrong, or whatever. We do that to try to protect that part of ourselves that we don't want to look at, that we don't like. But when you use those tools that I mentioned earlier, like having nothing but forgiveness and love for yourself, then you know that's okay. You can forgive yourself for that. You can see that, and you can get authentic about your inauthenticity. And then when you see other people, you know and understand that they're in the same boat. They're in the same position. Like as Ram Dass says, you start to look at people like they're all trees. Like you don't look at a tree and judge it for whether it's a little bit crooked or some of the leaves are dead. You just know that it grew up that way. That's the way it grew up. That's the environment that it's been in. It's just being a tree. It's doing the best it can to do the best it can. And we don't judge it and say it's bad or it's wrong or whatever. It's just, we just appreciate it and we understand where it came from, where it's coming from. And we start to see other people like that as well. That's the other big thing I would say about this whole idea of coaching is, and what's so incredible about about Townsend and about Steve is how much this blends the spirituality. It's like all these concepts that you get from a book like Autobiography of a Yogi, or concepts that you get from meditation and the philosophy that goes along with it. And it's like that mixed with this, David Goggins or Grant Cardone or Jocko Willink, or some of these people that are just like intense and go and achieving and make a lot of money and crush it and stay hard. It blends so beautifully these ideas of love and forgiveness and patience, and taking massive action, and creating as a powerful creator in the universe. All right, one story I got to share, because Townsend said I have to share this story, and I do. of the other big thing that I've gotten from coaching. So there's no secret that I have certainly, since what I used to call my quarter life crisis, my awakening, I've been looking for answers, right? I've read a lot of books. I've read all the best and most popular personal development books, and I've read all the under the radar ones, and I've listened to all the podcasts, and I've done all this stuff, and I'm just consuming more, consuming. This one's going to be the answer. This one's going to be the answer. This is what's going to do it for me. And then it was, well, this is what's really going to change everything. It's this year of coaching with Townsend, and that is what changed everything. And so much so to the extent that I had this massive insight moment where I just realized in a flash. I was just I was in my apartment, standing around my apartment and kind of looking at all the books on my shelf and thinking about how much work, how hard I'd been trying for the last 6-7 years to figure this out, to get somewhere. And then in a flash, I just realized I am the answer. I am the thing that I'm looking for. I'm the one that I'm looking for. And so are you. So are all of us. And when we listen to people like everyone from Oprah to David Goggins to Steve Jobs and all these mega successful people, and especially all these mega successful people who came from really rough backgrounds. They weren't the poster child of privilege. They really dealt with a lot of struggle, and they make it. And what do they tell us? They tell us that anyone can do this. They say, if I can do it, you can do it. But we don't believe them. And the only reason we don't believe them is because we don't believe in ourselves. So after working with Townsend this happened just a couple months ago, so it had been over a year basically that we've been working together, and my self-belief attribute had been ratcheting up more and more to when I finally got to this point of realizing oh my gosh, I just haven't been believing in myself. So I haven't been believing Townsend when he's been telling me that I'm great, I'm amazing, I'm powerful. I'm yeah, great, pay a dude $60,000 a year and it'll say nice things about you. That was the attitude I would have sometimes in the back of my mind when he was telling me anything positive about me. I'm oh, you're just saying that. Why was I doing that? I was only doing that because I didn't really believe in myself. So I have this massive insight moment, download, intuition on self-belief. And I'm looking around and I'm I don't need all these books. I don't need to read another book. I don't need Townsend. I don't need his coaching. I am it. I am the answer. I don't need to look outside myself for any of this stuff. I'm so passionate about this. I called him. So I call him. He answers the phone. He's hey, brother, what's up? I'm oh, hey, Townsend. So you're fired. And then I launch into all this stuff, and I have this, this intense moment of all this work. This is 7 years of seeking and looking is crashing down on me in this one moment. It's like I was giving birth, I was being reborn in this moment, and I am giving it all to Townsend. I don't need you, and I finally realized I'm the answer, and I believe in myself, and all this stuff, and he just kind of patiently sitting there on the other side of the phone. But it was this huge moment for me of realizing that I didn't need him, that he didn't have all the answers for me. And I think that in any coaching relationship, any great coach will tell you up front that you don't need them. No one needs coaching. You don't need to do this. I didn't need to do this. I wanted to do it. I chose to do it. I really thought I needed to do it, but no one needs this. This isn't something to say like you have to do this, and you're bad if you don't, and you're good if you do. It's up to you. Everything is a choice, and you're free to be. And I just in this huge moment, I had this revelation about this, and I'm telling him, that he's fired, and there was this moment where in one of our earlier sessions he had said like, Trevor, you're amazing. I think you could coach me one day. And that was a huge moment of like, bullshit. And you're just saying that. I'm like, oh my God, I could coach you one day. Like, well, whatever. And then in this moment, I'm like hearkening back to that and being like, I could coach you. Like, I've been coaching you this whole time, or something like that. So it's this really amazing moment. I mean, and for me to go from like having putting my coach on a pedestal, like he's so other, he's so out there, like, oh my gosh, he's this amazing guy, even though he would tell me, I just wouldn't listen. I couldn't hear it. Again, we can only hear things to the extent that we're able to hear them. That it's not what we see and what we hear that matters, but how we're looking and how we're listening. So even when he would tell me that he's not done, that he has moments of, signing a client and then thinking like, oh wow, okay, how am I gonna coach this guy? Because this guy's amazing. He's the clients that Townsend has are some incredible people, and he has these moments of like, oh my, can I really coach this guy? Like he has that self-worth struggle still. It's different. It's different. Not to say it's better, it's up-leveled, whatever, but it's different. And even he would tell me that stuff, and I would just like not believe him. And then in this moment, it's like every coaching session that we had over the past year, everything about my entire life like shifted. My entire past shifted in that moment. It was the most powerful thing. This people talk about having a breakthrough. I mean, this was a massive breakthrough that I had that involved me firing him, and then I called him back the next day. The next day after I'd sort of everything had settled back in, and I come back down to earth and been like, okay, now I'm at a place of like, no, I don't need to read these books, but I can read books just from a place of like, oh, let me be reminded of these things, or let me see, treat this like a buffet, like which things in here resonate with me, which ones don't. Not like I'm reading it because I got to read it because it's got the answer and it's going to change something for me. Like, no, I'm perfect, and I'm the answer. I'm the one I'm looking for. And I can read books because reading is just a beautiful, brilliant thing to do, and I can get ideas from the books and from that kind of place. And so I'm like, all right, so I'm not really firing Townsend. So I called him back the next day and I'm like, hey Townsend, so you're not fired. You're not fired. He was like, I know. But what showed up for me yesterday when I would say I was practically yelling at him on the phone, and he's like, you weren't yelling. You were committed, you were passionate, and it was beautiful, and it showed up for me just to hold that space for you. So I did. And then we had an amazing conversation, and the rest of the sessions that we had were so far beyond all of the prior ones that we had as well. And that's the other point I want to make about this whole idea of growth and this journey, that again, this is something we can mark off on the multiple choice test, but understanding it's not this smooth linear path with a slope of 1 of you making these incremental and constant improvements in your life. I mean, there are going to be, I had lots and lots of moments during the year that I was coaching with Townsend where I was doubting myself. I was doubting the coaching. I was thinking I made a mistake. All that money, like what was I thinking? I went through all of that like many times. So I don't want to come on here and have anyone thinking again that everything is pure sunshine and rainbows and this is all easy and effortless. And I say those things because I know that's the truth, but it doesn't mean I don't forget it from time to time. And by from time to time, I mean on a daily basis. We're never done. And this is a great thing to make another Ram Dass reference. There was this amazing speech that he gave, and this is like late in his career. So he has been, the guru that he is for decades at this point, and still he was giving a talk somewhere, some event, and he opens the talk by sharing that the microphone they gave him to use during the talk, he didn't like it, and he was angry. He was like pissed off and frustrated, like, wait, no, I didn't want this microphone. There's this other microphone, and maybe he even said like, this is the kind of microphone I like to use, and they gave him another one, and he comes out there and shares that. I mean, that guy, if that guy is telling you that he got mad about the microphone that he was given before he was about to give a speech on mindfulness and spirituality and all these things, then who is anyone to try to pretend like that stuff doesn't still come up, and I'm just floating on a cloud and I never get angry? Like, yeah, of course, all the negative human emotions, I experience all of them still on like a daily or weekly basis. I mean, I believe that we are eternal spiritual beings having a temporary human experience. And to me now, those key words there are, we are having a temporary human experience. And to be human, to be a human animal, is to get angry, is to doubt yourself, is to have fear. I mean, that is baked into us, into our brains, into our bodies as human animals. You're never going to get rid of that. And I used to think that was kind of the goal. Like, unconsciously or consciously, I felt like if at some point I'll be done with this. I won't self-sabotage anymore. Like, just if I just, there's something for me to cross, some fence for me to get over it, and then I'll be done. No, there is no done. There's no getting it. There's no getting there. You come to peace with that, and then you laugh at yourself when that stuff comes up, because you know that it's just this other part of your being, this other part of your brain, your lizard brain, whatever you want to call it, and you just look at it the same way that we like to sometimes, look at little kids. I've got a 4-year-old nephew, and it's so funny how sometimes we laugh at him, the things he gets upset about or that he's scared about, and it's like, oh gosh, don't you know, like, that's not a big deal. Or you don't have to be scared at your swim lessons, like, they're not going to let you drown. There's someone standing in the pool, hold you, like, but what are you so afraid of? And then we as adults turn around and do the exact same things. We just dress them up as like fancier problems. These are adult problems, but it's all the same stuff. And you bring a sense of humor to it and look at it with love and self-forgiveness, and that's how you can live a really beautiful, powerful, and loving life. Okay, so I shared the firing story, shared about why I hired Townsend, things about the money, transformation that's occurred in me. Is there anything else before we go? So another incredible thing that I created as a result of working with Townsend is a completely new relationship with alcohol. So I have been a social drinker like since I was in high school. Started drinking in high school, was in a frat in college, and then I moved to Manhattan after that, and going to happy hours, going out with friends all the time, partying a lot. So been pretty good at drinking like my whole life. And when I first signed up to work with Townsend, I kind of made this decision like, well, I'm not going to drink for the next year so that I can get the most out of the coaching. That was the original commitment that I made, to say I'm not going to drink so I can focus on the coaching and developing myself. And I kept that up for I think about 2 months straight, and then eventually I renegotiated that commitment. But now I am in a place where I have a completely new relationship with alcohol. Like, I still drink, but I do it much more infrequently, and it's much more meaningful for me now. But I have plenty of times where I can go to dinner with a huge group of friends and be the only one not drinking at the table. And that is something I never, ever, ever thought that I would be able to do. But the reason I was able to do it is because I realized through our coaching how much of the drinking that I was doing was to make other people comfortable in your social situation. Everyone's like, you need to drink. And even if I was like, I don't really want to drink, but okay, yeah, everyone else is doing it, I guess I'll do it. Or how much of my drinking was just to make me feel better, to cure some even just minor anxiety. Because that's the other tool that you get from coaching,
is your measuring instruments for the awareness of what's going on inside of you get turned way up. So awareness is the foundation of transformation. It's the foundation of everything. You can't solve a problem or change anything about your life if you don't know what's going on. And what coaching does is build your awareness muscle like you cannot even begin to imagine. I mean, the more you see that there is to see. So this was another hugely impactful thing for me was I've completely recreated my relationship with alcohol at the age of 32. I mean, there are people who are in their 70s who still can't control this, who still drink too much and regret it, all this stuff. I mean, this is a massive, massive shift for me. So wanted to include that as well. I created completely new relationships with some of the people that I love most and that are closest to me in my life, starting with my brother. So I have this brother, he's 6 years older than me, and he's my best friend in the world, and I look up to him so much. He's so smart, he's so successful. I love him, and he's brilliant, and I my entire life have pretty much valued his opinion more than my own. So throughout this whole year of coaching, there were a lot of conversations we had where I'm trying to, this is another big thing I saw, was the extent to which I would want people to get it. Like, they need to get it. You need to get a coach. You need to read this book. You need to understand what I'm doing. No, they don't. And that was a lot for me to get over and overcome, is this need to be understood. Like, they need to get it. I need them to understand. That was a big thing that I went through and then let go of. And then in relation to my brother's approval, I had this moment. I mean, it was this tiny moment. I've talked to him about it since then, so I'm happy sharing this. Nothing in here is going to surprise him. That we were texting after we'd had a conversation the night before. That I don't even know if we were disagreeing or it seemed like maybe we were butting heads on me saying something about coaching and the value of coaching, whatever. And he's very he's basically an evolutionary biologist. He's got a master's in animal behavior and biology, and he's very, very science minded. Like, if it's not in a double-blind, peer-reviewed study, it doesn't exist. Maybe I'm straw-manning him there a little bit. So we're having this conversation, and obviously some of the stuff that I'm talking about is, it's things that are going on inside of you. Like I talked about earlier, increasing the tool of awareness. Well, how do you measure that? What kind of awareness? So, there's some things where you can't have this conversation in the context of like a laboratory. Although I think of it as you do this in the laboratory of your own life and your own mind. Anyway, what happens is we're texting the next day, and I end up sending him this message of just saying I got to say these things to you, or speak what's true for me, and I'm more committed to serving you than I am to you agreeing with me or thinking that I'm right. And it seems like such a small thing, but that was huge for me. I had this massive emotional release that came along with that, and now everything with him is changed and is better. We have these conversations now where I'm not trying to convince him of anything or not judging him in some of the ways I was before, because there is no judgment of others. There is only judgment of self. So relationship with my brother, completely recreated and better than it's ever been. I mean, at what age do you learn to have better conversations? At what age do your relationships get better? It can be any time. And there's always room for improvement. And you can get to the point where you say, look, my relationship is perfect. My life is perfect. I'm perfect. Everything's beautiful and amazing. And it could be even better. How about that? It's not that anything's wrong, that anything needs fixing, but it could be even more magnificent than it already is. So relationship with brother, totally recreated. Relationship with my mom, completely recreated as well. We have had the amount and types of conversations that I'm having with my mom now after doing this coaching for a year are incredible. There is so much more love and understanding between both of us than there was before. I mean, how's your relationship with your parents? How is it with your kids? How is it with your siblings, your partner? Are they all a 10 out of 10? Well, what do you mean a 10 out of 10? There's always room for improvement. Okay, well, how about it's a 10 out of 10, and it can get even better. There's a new 10. There's more it can be, but that can't mean that it's not already amazing. I would call my relationship with my mom, with my brother, a 10 out of 10. And there's always more to see. I'm under no illusion there's not going to be something else for us to grow through and grow from and get even closer and have even more love and understanding between us. And that is a fun game to play. Work-wise, I had started working with Townsend right after I got promoted at the company where this hoodie is from, actually. And I was really nervous about this promotion. I was super stressed at work. I was really nervous. I felt like I was swimming in the deep end and maybe drowning in the deep end. And the coaching that I got with Townsend helped me basically navigate that whole promotion process with so much more effectiveness and less stress than I otherwise would have had. Like, it was basically like I shortcut what it would normally feel like to ramp into a new position like that. I got there way faster. I was able to be way more confident and effective and less stressed. And I would have coworkers asking me, like, you seem like you're never stressed, or every time we get on a call, I'm saying, everyone does the, how you doing? I'm like, I'm wonderful. I've never been better. Everyone's like, what's up with this guy? But it's real. I mean, it's possible to be that way and to love your job and be great at it, even in a high pressure sales job, and not feel the stress, not feel the way that I used to feel about having a quota. It used to stress me out. I used to lose sleep over it so much. I thought that was never going away. I thought that was just part of the job. That's just sales. That's showbiz, baby. Well, apparently not. So I went on to make more money in the year. I just did my taxes yesterday. Left that to the last minute. But and at the time I'm recording this, it's Monday, April 18th. So I did my taxes not till April 17th. But I made a lot more money. If you want to talk about, the coaching, was it worth it? Would you get out of it? Well, I'm more than doubled my income in the year of coaching. Now, part of that is I was in a great position at work, so I don't want to make it sound like this was just some, magical thing, pay $60,000, hire a coach, will double your income. There was some situational things that were there to set that up for me, but I will tell you, the way that I was able to navigate that promotion and that year was unlike anything I'd ever experienced in my life. I was growing so much professionally and personally, and was able to be super effective and not stressed about it nearly as much as I would have otherwise been. I also don't want to make it sound like there's zero stress. Those things never go away entirely, but it's all about the half-life of those emotions and how you respond to them. And that was another major benefit I got out of the coaching. Another relationship completely recreated as a result of working with Townsend. My dad. I used to have this story about my dad, and I told Townsend this story in one of our last coaching sessions, where we were talking about I was talking about, how I had such a breakthrough in my relationship with my mom. So that, to give a little more detail, was basically, I made another YouTube video about this, about what is perfectionism. If you want to check that out, I kind of explain that whole story of how, even though my mom loves me more than anything in the world, I still took in this message that she loves me most when I'm perfect. So to me, perfectionism is like you're withholding love from yourself unless and until you're perfect. And I had this massive insight and breakthrough about that later on during my time coaching. And I shared all of it with my mom. We had the most, oh my God, like I can't tell you how beautiful and amazing that conversation was to get to have with my mom. I mean, and I'm 32 years old. Like, at what age are you transforming and improving all the relationships in your life? It is never too late. Things are not the way that they are. We can create beautiful, powerful new things. I have this conversation with my mom, talking through all this, and it's amazing, and she's so loving and understanding. She's like, oh, that was, I never wanted you to take that message. I'm like, I know. And she's like, but I know that, everyone, that the kids got to go through their own journey and everything, and I'm so happy you see this now, and I love you so much. And I mean, it was, if this scene was in a movie, you would have been like, this is unrealistic, and two mothers and sons don't talk like this to each other, especially not like, after all this time. And well, it's possible. And the one with my dad, so I was talking about that with Townsend. I was like, yeah, well then, as far as my dad goes, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's probably I probably have some type of abandonment wound there. And he's like, abandonment wound, really? Can you show me? Like, well, no, but I mean, and stuff really is stored in the body. It's like, cool. So tell me about your dad. It's like, well, my dad, he loves me, but he loved me as much as he could. He just, I don't know. I don't think he was like very loving, and he was gone for work a lot, and he's great. I love my dad. We have a great relationship, and everything, but just didn't love me that much. But then Townsend challenged me to say, well, I'd like you to tell me a story about how your dad loves you more than any father has ever loved a son. Like, tell me that story right now, with the facts, with the stories, everything, the evidence to back it up. Tell me that. And it just shifted everything in me in that moment. And I started to see all the ways that my dad has always loved me more than any father has ever loved a son. I thought about this really thoughtful thing he did when I was like 3 or 4 years old. I was obsessed with cars, and he made this custom little book for me, like all these print out Polaroid pictures, and was writing on the back of them, like telling this story about me and cars, and it's this amazing thing. And that was all I could think of, and all I could think of was all the time he spent with me. Hold space. All the time he spent with me in the yard, playing basketball, throwing the baseball, throwing the football, all that stuff, and going to every single one of my games. I was playing at least three sports like my entire life. He was at every game that he could have been. He was there. I mean, and the traveling for work, it's like, yeah, wow, okay, so he was willing to spend time away from his family, who he loves so much, so that he could do anything to provide for you and send you to the amazing school that you went to from pre-K through high school. Like, wow, yeah, okay. I have a whole new dad. I have a new dad now, and a new story about my entire life. Like, that's the other incredible thing about coaching. I saw there's this popular, I don't know if I'd call it a meme, whatever, going around from this guy, Adam Grant, and it's supposed to be encouraging, that it's like life paths closed to you, and it shows a bunch of grayed out paths, and then there's one green one, that's the one you've been on. So it's like life paths closed to you, all those grayed out ones, and then life paths still open to you. And there's all these green branches, like you could take your life in so many different directions. It's supposed to be inspiring, like look at all these things you could do. But I also would challenge the left side of that meme about these life paths closed to you, or like what you think your past is. Like, you've got this story about your past, and you're like, no, the past is the past, and my dad just didn't love me that much, and my mom just did want me to be perfect, and my brother just is this way, and I just am this way. This is how I am with money. I've always been this way, and I inherited these beliefs from, and I have all that stuff. If you're open to it as a possibility, you can change all of those stories. You can change everything about your life going forward, and you can see everything differently about the life that you have lived. In my very first coaching session with Townsend, I show up and I go through my document, my personal declaration. I'd been working on it for 3 months. We've been doing a group coaching thing together before that. So I had this document developed. I put a lot of focus, time, and energy into it. Really proud of it. captures everything. I've got it memorized. So we begin our first session, and he's like, well, let's start there. Why don't you tell me who you are? And I go through my document, and I'm like, feeling good, okay. And Townsend's like, great, beautiful, powerful, it's amazing. You think I might be missing anything? Like, missing anything? No, how could I be missing anything? I thought of all this stuff. I have everything in there. The spirituality and the money, and then the love and the gratitude, and being powerful and being strong and making a lot of money, and also being deeply spiritual and loving everybody. No one's deserving of my judgment. Everyone's deserving of my love, and I'm my own master, and all this stuff. What? No, it's not missing anything. And then we go back and forth for maybe like 5 minutes of him being like, are you sure? Do you want to, why don't you think, why don't you jot some things down that might be in a document like this and see if anything comes up? And I do that, and I still can't see it. And this is the crazy thing. Like, sometimes I'll tell these stories and you'll be like, well, like, this is so obvious. How could you not see that? Look, friends, blind spots are blind spots. You have coaches for a reason. They help you see things that you can't see, and sometimes it's the most obvious thing that you would think is right in front of your face. And we've all been there with a friend, or think about a time that maybe it didn't happen to you, but maybe you saw in someone else something that they didn't see. And how does that feel? And it seems like such an obvious thing, but people just can't see this stuff necessarily. That's why you have coaches. That's why if you want to play better golf, you have a coach watching your swing, and he's going to tell you all these things. Did you know you're doing this? You're doing this? You're doing this? Like, what? I had no idea I was doing all that stuff. So the punchline of that is, he's like, well, do you think there's something missing in there? Maybe like a relationship. And I was like, but I'm not in a relationship. So, I'm not in a relationship. So there's nothing in there about a relationship. And he's like, yeah, well, how do you think a relationship might come to fruition? What do you think comes first? You creating the relationship, or you just finding yourself in one? Are you reporting on your life, or are you creating it? This was this other massive shift as a result of all the coaching in general, is moving from a reported life to a created life. So instead of all this stuff is just happening to me, life's happening around me, I'm in this movie, but I don't have any say over what's going on, or the people in it, or how the rest of my story is really going to turn out. Like, maybe a little bit, but not a lot. Well, the power of the coaching is you can go completely shift from living this life that you're just reporting on, like, oh, the restaurant's out of tables, no more, I guess I'll have to go somewhere else, to creating a table at the restaurant, or creating whatever you want in your life, like creating a relationship. So over the course of that year, then I added something to my document where I would say that, so there's this part where I'd say, no one is deserving of my judgment, least of all me. Everyone is deserving of my love, most of all me. My heart is full of love, with infinite room to grow, for myself, my family, my friends, the world, and especially my soulmate, wherever she is. I can't wait to meet her. Maybe I already have. And just that shift, saying that every day, like opening my heart more and more to love and to the idea of a relationship, has changed everything for me. There may be, I may have a part 2 on this in particular, but I will just say I used to have this idea that, like, I couldn't imagine, like, meeting my person. Like, there's billions of girls in the world. What are the odds you find the right one? And I'm thinking, like, I'm just relying on this, like, dating apps and stuff. And now I've deleted all those, deleted all the dating apps, and I'm just like, I know, like, to the core of my being and in my heart, I am going to meet exactly who I'm supposed to meet, exactly when I'm supposed to meet them, and it's going to be beyond anyone's wildest dream for what a relationship could be, because I'm creating that. So that's the power of the coaching as well. You don't just wait for things to happen in your life, you go out and create them. So I've already written a letter. I've written a love letter to my soulmate, dated a year from now, who I may or may not have met already. That's a pretty cool flip switch, kind of a counterintuitive thing. What do you think comes first, the relationship or the love letter? Maybe the love letter. Another major shift as a result of the coaching for me is the way that I think about some of the most important concepts in our lives, like freedom, for example. Before I started working with Townsend, I thought about freedom really in terms of financial freedom, and I thought that meant I will never be free, I will never be financially free unless and until I've got a certain amount of money in my bank account. And that was how I thought about freedom. I didn't feel very free. I thought freedom was something I would get to one day, maybe, but I was also kind of scared and nervous that I might not ever get there. And now I have completely shifted my view on freedom and what it means to be free. And I feel completely 100% free now. I feel like I already am financially free. I have more money than I need. I'll always have more money than I need. I know now I have the ability to go out and create as much money as I want whenever I want. I am free. Freedom is an inside job. There is nothing, and this is the shift for all these things that I think of, like love and freedom and peace. None of them are found outside of you. And that's something that maybe we can check off. Maybe you've heard that before. You can check it off on a multiple choice test. But as a result of going through this coaching, I know these things to be true in my bones. Not just like I heard Sadhguru say it and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, that sounds good. Or I heard Ram Dass say it and I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds good. No, like I live it. And it's beautiful and amazing. So that's been a big shift. And then the other one, the other two really important concepts that have shifted for me are around conflict and around discomfort. So conflict, I used to avoid like the plague. I was kind of a people pleaser. I was a nice guy. I wanted everyone to be comfortable. If two people were like having a disagreement in my presence, I couldn't stand it. It made me so uncomfortable. Now, I have come to see conflict as just a beautiful tool for growth, like conflict within yourself or with other people. That's where the growth is. And it's all about who you're being in that conflict. Now, because if conflict comes up and who you're being is, I'm digging my heels in and I need to be right and I'm letting my ego run everything, well, that's no good. So as a result of the coaching as well, I have all the tools to deal with conflict positively. So now I love conflict. I love it when something comes up inside of me where I'm feeling that conflict, or it's with another person or a coworker or a customer or a client, because I know that's a sign that there's something for us to grow through and get to the other side of, and that things are going to be better, even better once we get there. And I just have complete confidence in my ability to help create and orchestrate that. So that's how I think about conflict now, going from avoiding it, hating it, being scared of it, to loving it. And the same is true for discomfort. I had gotten to a place right before I started working with Townsend where I was tired of grinding, of hustling like I had been for my whole life, and I just kind of wanted to be comfortable. I just wanted to meditate and be peaceful, and my job is stressful, and I just want to be comfy. And I've now completely shifted that belief not back to what it was before of being uncomfortable, but being driven so much by fear that I would put up with the discomfort, but really I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and insecurity and things like that. And now I'm in a place where I see discomfort as similar to conflict, as this beautiful and necessary tool for growth. I mean, I realize nothing good in my life, nothing that I'm proud of, nothing worth having has come without being quote unquote uncomfortable. So I've reframed this whole idea of discomfort and feeling discomfort as a signal that this is good, this is something to move towards, this is productive. Now obviously this has to be in the right context of, it's something related to your larger vision, or taking the simple ideas of just like, it's comfortable to snooze your alarm in the morning instead of getting out of bed and starting your day right with a morning routine, whatever it is. It's comfortable to sit on the couch and watch Netflix instead of going to work out. But neither of those things lead to growth. So I've come now to completely see discomfort, and now there's always more to see as well. This is also not to say that I'm done. There is no done, there's no getting it, there's no getting there. So I see as much as I see now. I am where I am. It takes as long as it takes, and you'll never be done. That's a great Ram Dass quote that he has about awakening. As far as your awakening is concerned, you will awaken at the rate at which you awaken. No sooner, no later. You are where you are. It takes as long as it takes, and you'll never be done. And the same is true for everything in our lives, for our entire lives. You are where you are. You are exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, and you'll progress and grow at the rate at which you do, and you'll never be done. And there's a beautiful freedom and peace in that. Yet another beautiful thing I got from the year of coaching is my relationship to time and the rest of my life, and where it comes concerning patience. So I saw this great post on LinkedIn a little while ago, had a lot of likes, a lot of reshares from a really senior guy at a really great company. And the post said, my 20s, insecure because I thought I didn't know enough. My 30s, arrogant because I thought I knew it all. My 40s, realized I still have more to learn. My 50s, realized I'll never be done. So enjoy the ride. And I was like, okay, so I guess my 1 year of coaching basically gave me 4 decades of wisdom. And I don't say that with some, if you watch this whole video, whatever. If you think I'm bragging, you're right. I don't mean it to be like that. I just mean, yeah, that's what happens when you work like this intensely with a coach, one-on-one for 2 hours every other week, one of the best coaches on the planet. Yeah, that'll happen. I am now a 32-year-old with the wisdom of a 70-year-old. God, that's a powerful and amazing and beautiful position to be in. And this really manifested and came to a head for me when I came close to quitting my job just a few months ago, like really close. And the reason I was going to do it was because I know what I want to do going forward. What I know what I want to do for the rest of my life is to coach. I want to coach people one-on-one, group coaching, things like that. Have this YouTube channel, be part of all of that as well. I want to love and serve the world and create a lot of abundance through coaching people the way that I've been coached, because it's been the most incredible thing in my life. And as I said, I want to help create more people who create more charity waters of the world. And I was getting impatient about that and thinking like, there's somewhere I got to get to. The grass is greener over there. Like once I become a coach, and I just got to do that. I got to burn the boats and have it be this big, grand gesture. And one thing that really changed my mind, I had a conversation with this guy who is a super successful coach now, but I heard more about his story and how he got there. And the first couple years weren't pretty. He's burning through all his savings, making $5,000 a year, $25,000 a year, and thinking like he might need to pivot, go back to his old job, or just figure something else out. So that really made it click for me to realize like, look, I know I want to be doing this. I want to be coaching people when I'm 80. I'm 32. I have a job that I love, where I make a lot of money, and I work with incredible people and fun customers. Like everything's amazing about where I am right now. And I'm no longer feeling like I'm in some hurry to get somewhere like I felt at other times in my life. So I've come so much to be at peace with where I am, knowing where I'm going to go, and also not feeling like I need to rush anything. Like enjoy the ride, enjoy the process. So that's another beautiful place I've gotten to as a result of the coaching.
Well, what I did want to do was to share also my my whole declaration with you, to give you an idea of how I see myself now, how I create myself now. And I want to be very clear that a year or more ago, none of these ideas were in my head. None of these things did I think were possible for me to embody. Some of the things, the words you'll hear in there, and there's some like woo-woo almost sounding spiritual stuff in there, and then there's other things that it's like, well, whoa, that's a bold statement. You sound like you might be arrogant or might be bragging. Like, I get it. I wrestled with all those things a lot early on. You know, this whole idea of um, of wondering if I was deserving of speaking powerfully, of creating myself powerfully. And with that, I will now share with you my document. I am loved by the universe. I am guided by the universe. I am a product of the universe. I am the universe. I am comfortable being uncomfortable because that's where all the growth is. I move and challenge and nourish my body, mind, and spirit in all the best ways every day. I'm the pinnacle of health. I connect with and learn from and share with every human and every creature that the universe introduces to me. No one is deserving of my judgment, least of all me. Everyone is deserving of my love, most of all me. My heart is full of love, with infinite room to grow for myself, my family, my friends, the world, and especially my soulmate, wherever she is. I can't wait to meet her. Maybe I already have. My life is beautiful and fun and effortless. It's an infinite game of creating money, freedom, peace, purpose, happiness, gratitude, and love. I am my own master, which means I know I am never done being a student. There is no done. There is no getting there. There is no getting it. There is always more to see, and I'm always looking, joyfully. My belief in myself is infinite. My commitment to myself is infinite. And that belief and that commitment manifests in how I create myself. I create myself consciously and powerfully because the more powerful the creator, the more powerful the creation. And how does the creator become more powerful? By creating himself more powerfully. It's that simple. It's that easy. I have already done this. I am Harry fucking Potter, casting my own Patronus. And that's why I am always exactly where I'm supposed to be, doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I love myself, and I love my life. And my mother named me Trevor. And that is who I am, and that is who I be. If you are curious to explore more about any of these ideas, or you want to talk about where you are in your personal development journey, maybe you're thinking about hiring a coach, you want to get my take on it, anything like that, whatever, I would love to talk to you about it. I love connecting with people about this stuff. I do it all the time, friends of friends, whatever. I'm happy to talk with you about where you are in your journey and see if there's anything I can do to help. So here is my email. Feel free to send me an email. I'd be happy to connect in real life, especially if you live in New York. We can meet up in person, or otherwise do a call or a Zoom, something like that. I would be happy to talk. And then if you're looking for a book that really gets at all these concepts that I've been talking about, self-forgiveness, being begets doing, commitment, being your word, being authentic about your inauthenticity, improving every relationship in your life, especially including the one with yourself, all that stuff, getting to a place where you're not choosing between being deeply spiritual and being a multimillionaire, or choosing between being nice and stepping into your power, all those things. I would highly recommend to get this book. The book's called The Ultimate Coach. It's not a book about coaching, not a book about the guy Steve. It's a book about you, just like this video has been about you. And with that, I say goodbye for now. Love you all. Bye.